Good evening and welcome to the August 24th, 2026 City Council Roundtable meeting. Thank you for joining us. Madam Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Murphy.
Here.
Councilmember Watton.
Here.
Councilmember Holloway.
Here.
Councilmember Washington. Councilmember Cotton.
Present.
Councilmember Tessman.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here. I believe Councilmember Washington will be joining us in just a moment. We'll know when he joins. We do have a quorum. And Councilmember Washington has joined us. Roll call. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Councilmember Johnson and seconded by Councilmember Watton. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion passes and the agenda is adopted. Tonight's special business will be a presentation on zoning and comprehensive plan by Burke Consulting. And with that, I will turn our meeting over to them for the presentation. As a reminder, this is a roundtable meeting. It's designed for a give and take. Please let me know by sign of, by raising your hand if you have questions, and we'll try to facilitate that.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here tonight with you. I'm Firdous Aneza from Burke Consulting. I'm a land use planner and project manager for your comp plan update. And I'm going to pass this to Lisa.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Greeter. I'm a principal at Burke Consulting and supporting Aneza and our team on working on the comprehensive plan and code amendments. So we have for you an agenda slide here where we will be just covering our preliminary work on land use and housing elements and the analysis associated with that. Some background on some forthcoming zoning concepts and future land use map, and then where we're headed with code updates later on this fall.
Sorry if I could, Council, I meant to say something in the beginning. For tonight, so this is a matter that has not yet gone to Planning Commission. It'll go through a process of Planning Commission that includes gathering public input, at the end of which the Planning Commission will make recommendations to you, the council. Because of that process, tonight is not a chance yet for council to give input directly on what should happen. That would be sort of getting in front of the Planning Commission's process. But we did want to make sure you knew where they were headed and the main things that are sort of going on, so that if you do have input, that you can make that known either by your comments tonight or by letting me know. And of course, I would pass that on to the team. But as a council, you wouldn't be tonight directing any of the work, because then you'd be getting in front of Planning Commission. So just sort of kind of how to sort of think about your comments and questions and so forth that you might make tonight. Sorry, I meant to say that up front. Back over to you all.
The city renegotiated its growth targets. The growth targets are required under the Growth Management Act and negotiated with King County. The city renegotiated those growth targets for housing last year. And as part of that, the city committed to the Puget Sound Regional Council last fall, where it received conditional certification that the city would go through and address some comments and concerns on the plan by the end of this year. And that includes ensuring that all the parts of the plan that refer to growth targets refer to the new number, that all the analysis that shows that the city can meet its housing targets at each affordability level are demonstrated. And PSRC also had a concern about the large area of mixed use designation and zoning on the ridge. and ask the city to make some adjustments that will help the city in a few ways. One is maintain eligibility for grants such as transportation grants from Puget Sound Regional Council or from the state for utilities. Also, the city is required by the King County Affordable Housing Committee and the associated countywide planning policies to monitor each year how well you're doing meeting your goals, policies, and action items to meet your housing targets. And then there is a 5-year report that would be due in 2029 that is due to the state for consistency and to show progress towards meeting those targets. So that's why it's important to get these numbers reflected and addressed in your plan and through the code changes you would need to make. So that's what we'll do is we'll cover preliminary efforts and where we're headed. And as the mayor mentioned, we'll come back to you after planning commission review. So, and that's it.
So like Lisa mentioned, that this is an ongoing process and we are bringing you some preliminary discussion here. And as part of that, we are required to do a land capacity analysis. Just to remind you that you had a land capacity analysis in the past cycle of your plan. So now that what Lisa mentioned, that you have a reconciled target with PSRC and the county, that's why we are revisiting the land capacity analysis again. And we're starting to look at land capacity analysis. We're looking at the reach area, and then we are also, it's the same process, but new data. So we are, this is an ongoing process, like Mayor mentioned and Lisa mentioned as well. So we are considering several options, and I'll show you in the next few slides. So our target is that city can meet all the affordability levels by income groups for housing. So that's our goal for land capacity analysis, to make sure that you have residential capacity. So you have seen these 4 scenarios in your packet. So I just don't want to repeat too much of it, but I just want to highlight what these are based off of. So these are preliminary, and what we're looking at is scenario 1 is the baseline condition. So that's as of today, like what your zoning is right now. So looking at your existing zoning, and that gives a baseline of what capacity do you have. And we're also looking at, is it enough? Like what capacity you have, is it adequate? And then if we'll go through that, but when we see that it's probably, as we're going through that, if it's not enough, then we are going to scenario 2, 3, and 4. And scenario 2 is we are looking at some rezoning options. And what Lisa mentioned, that we looked at rezoning for the reach area. So we looked at that, and then specific areas for rezoning, and analyzing that is like, is it enough now? And if that is not even enough, then we go to 3 and 4. And then we're looking at potentially annexation areas to meet the need of the housing target that you have. So 3 and 4, I'm gonna go through those once we go through the slides, but basically 3 is looking at the potentially annexation area and matching the pre-zoning of the annexation area with your existing future land use map. I know it, existing future land use map, so that's something we'll show that in the map. And then also scenario 4 is when, so if scenario 3 is not meeting the target, then we are looking at scenario 4, where we are applying some potential zoning to see if you are able to meet the target. So that's basically the exercise that we wanted to share with you. So like I mentioned, the land capacity scenario 1, you see that this is pretty much existing zoning. Snoqualmie Ridge has 1 mixed-use zoning, and then all other zoning are the same. And on the table on your left, you see that this red, that is 0 to 50% AMI, and there is a deficit. So the question that we ask is like, is scenario one enough? Are you able to meet the housing target? So the answer is no. You need to do more work. So that's sort of the process that since yes, area median income. So AMI is area median income and Lisa.
Every jurisdiction's given targets that are meant to address affordability at different levels, and it's based on the area median income for King County. So it's every jurisdiction has a share of units that are to be affordable, creating opportunities for the units to be affordable, because the city wouldn't build them, but developers to build 0 to 50% of the area median income. That's a very low income, 50 to 80%. Low income, 80 to 120 is a moderate income, and 120 and above is above that. Typically, single family would be built at that upper end, and typically attached units would provide capacity at the lower end.
All right. So now that we know that baseline, we have the baseline and that does not meet the target. So we are looking at scenario two. Like I mentioned, scenario two is we're not looking at potential annexation areas, but we're looking at Snoqualmie Ridge's new zoning change, and then also looking at a couple of sites that that might have so this is just a test and preliminary review to see what changes if we look at few sites and then change the zoning. So with that, we still find that, and so there's still lack of capacity. So it still does not meet the deficit for 0 to 50%. And also we did consider another. So during this process of land capacity analysis, we had assumptions and we took out the areas that are not going to be built, like critical areas. You're never going to build there. There are processes that are set for like taking out market factor, processes to take out roads and infrastructure, land to take out those. So we did go through those entire, so it's sort of like in this exercise, we took that out. And we also considered best site to see what the impact would be to so affected areas. So we took that out as well. So with that consideration, you see that you are still lacking. So there is still deficit. So scenario two still have deficit. So that would lead us to go to scenario three.
Sorry, Mayor, can I jump in with a quick question?
Yes, Councilmember Murphy.
So as a quick clarification, so with BESS, we're minus 250. Without BESS, we're minus 143, but this is not including the UGA, but the BESS is a UGA property. So help me understand like the discrepancy of deficit between the with BESS and the without BESS scenario.
We assumed that land close by to that site might be less capable of being used for residential. So even though we're not considering the potential annexation area, we're looking in proximity to see what would be compatible areas.
Understood. Thank you.
Councilmember Tessman.
If I can maybe clarify, I took your question to mean, hey, with BESS, we've got, oh no, sorry. No, BESS 140, sorry. Track my question.
Yeah, so maybe if helpful, you can see they're really tuning in on the concept in each of these scenarios that some of the UGA that we might and the PAA is, tell me again.
PAA is the potential annexation area.
Potential annexation area, not the same definition as urban growth area. So potential annexation area. As they're looking at that, they're looking at, well, wait a minute, if there's 45 acres that's taken out for this proposed project, where would that leave us? So we're trying to make sure that as they go through this, that's factored into all the analysis. It's preliminary, of course, at this point, and we'll go through the process, but throughout the process, we'll make sure that that is focused on.
And in scenario 3, we're looking at the potentially annexation areas. And what we're looking at is a zoning in the potentially annexation areas that matches with your future, existing future land use map. So your existing future land use has certain designations, so we found the closest match in the zoning that would apply here. So with that zoning in place, which is, we are calling it minimal zoning change in the potentially annexation area, and we're doing exercise a few options with. So we are looking at 2 zoning that are in your residential zone R1. One is 110, 1-10, and one is 1-4. So 1-10 is 10,000 acres per lot, and and then 1-4 is 4,000 square feet. Yeah, not lot, yeah, not acres. Sorry. So that was pretty huge, wasn't it? 10,000 square feet and then 4,000 square feet. So those are the 2 zoning that we're looking at, and see if we are also taking that that affected areas for best. So there are a couple of multiple options, but overall, you do have, when you look at the potentially annexation areas, you meet the capacity, you meet the deficit when there is no BESS. When considering BESS affected areas, you still don't meet the deficit. So that's the summary. All right, so let's go to the next slide. So that's when we are looking at scenario 4. And in scenario 4, we are, this is again, in this exercise, we're looking at some density, higher density zones. City has R3 zoning in place. So we are applying those zoning in certain areas. And then all of the conditions for scenario 3 applies, but it's just that PA area has a different zoning now. And with that, and including areas that are affected by BESS, you do have capacity in this scenario 4, in both conditions.
Councilmember Johnson.
So just based on this exercise, we have a million questions about, but just based on this, it seems that the only one of those scenarios that gets us to the number that we need, even if BESS is built, would be scenario 4. Do I understand that correctly?
That's correct.
Although do understand that this is still preliminary, this is not actually necessarily where they're going to end. This is kind of where the work is right now, that's headed towards input into the Planning Commission. But you see the sort of 4 categories, and broadly, the question you asked and the answer you heard do seem to be where it's headed.
So we're showing a summary for you to look at all the options and see where you meet the deficit and where not. So that's sort of scenario 4, like you mentioned. Johnson. All right, so next, yeah.
This section is just going to cover briefly the potential annexation area. That's King County's approach to identifying for each community which areas may become part of the city should annexation be proposed and successful. Each city that has a potential annexation area is to look at that area in its comprehensive plan, and you did, as Vanessa mentioned, you have a currently adopted plan for the area. You're also to look at infrastructure needs, and you have in your water plan, sewer plan, and transportation plan. So if we go to the pink areas are, the pink areas are what are the potential annexation areas. So it's largely the area to the southwest, but you have small areas north of the mill site, some other smaller areas. One thing you can do to facilitate annexation is pre-planning and pre-zoning for the area. If you go to the next slide, this kind of summarizes some of the assumptions that were in the land capacity analysis. But today, the current designations up to the small areas up to the north, the Weyerhaeuser West and East, are residential and utility park in your adopted future land use map. And then north of the mill, it's a continuation of the planned commercial industrial. And then in the southwest on today's plan map, it's master plan business park, innovative mixed use and residential. Options that were kind of looked at preliminarily in the land capacity analysis would keep the ones on the north generally the same, residential and utility park, and north of the mill, planned commercial industrial. But some other options would be residential and business retail down in that southwest area. And then the zoning could be to match that would be on the north, R3, utility park, planned commercial industrial, and then in that big southwest area, a combination of R1 and R3 mostly, and then you could consider business general for isolated areas.
Councilmember Johnson.
Can you walk me through just one more time what those four areas are?
Oh,
When I hear the name Weyerhaeuser, I'm thinking mill site, but maybe is
Yeah.
it just all in the pink area?
yeah, so that pink area that
Oh,
is,
go one more time, thank you.
yeah, the pink area that's north of the word
Got it.
Snoqualmie.
Okay,
That's called Weyerhaeuser West and East. West is the area that is right there with the arrow. East is the area near the utility area already. And then north of the mill is that other area just surrounding the blue.
got it, thank you.
And then everything else is that southwest. And those are just the names that King County has given those areas.
Councilmember Watton.
I'm just a little curious too, and especially staying on this slide, because the hash area on the map, those are Snoqualmie Indian Reservation, both
Right.
the casino and then the Salish Lodge. And I know that in our UGA, that part of the PAA is there's another, I came across 8 parcels owned now by the tribe that reside in King County. And it doesn't need to be an answer today, but how does that impact if we're looking at an annexation that needs 60% of the property value, I believe, not just the property owners, the total value, is having a little more context behind that. And kind of the one is risk of, what it may do. And secondly is it also may help frame governmental to governmental relations as we try to move forward and address things like affordable housing together. So anyway, I just thought I'm posing a question that you don't need to have an answer today, but it would be helpful to know
Sure.
as we're moving through this, because it will impact us one way or another.
We can bring back more in future. There's a lot of different processes that are options for annexation. But just one note on the land capacity results that Oneza walked through. We excluded any of the tribal trust or tribal related properties from the analysis. We assumed they were not contributing to the capacity of the potential annexation area.
Yes, so in council, just be aware that the tribe owns land in various forms of ownership. So some of the land they own is then held in trust for the tribe by the federal government, BIA. Some of the land they own, they're just a property owner, just like any of us are. So different tribal owned properties get different treatment. The key point being the answer you just heard, which is for land that is held in trust, that is by the federal government, that's really not land that we can count towards our goals. So they've tried to be, sort of clear on that, and we'll continue to be clear on that as this goes through the process and gets clarity. Let's see, Councilmember Cotton.
Yes, there was one scenario scenario 3, where we got yes on both that, and it was the, without the BES, that we got yes, that we could have the capacity on both of those. Now, being that we won't, potentially know some of these moving parts, I guess, for our city, which is yes, best, no best, for some time potentially. How does that affect, I mean, I'm assuming the deadlines won't change for us, or is there any capacity or wiggle room for us to have negotiations about, finding out about the ultimate answer on this, about how it's going to affect us and moving forward with meeting these guidelines?
I guess I would invite Mona or others, the mayor, to say more, but first of all, this deadline will come probably before the deadline associated with Puget Sound Regional Council will come before you probably know all those answers. But I think we're going to bring back options that the city could consider where you're already planning on sewer infrastructure or other infrastructure that may be compatible, and you may have to make some choices about how much change you propose without knowing fully the answer.
So I could also maybe give some additional information on that. The deadlines that we face will not move, regardless of ownership of the land. The thing that we're required to do is plan for the targets. We, the council, don't have to cause those targets to happen. In fact, we don't generally have anywhere near the financial, we just don't have the resources to do that, but we have to plan for that to happen. It is interesting to think about as we designate land for things like affordable housing targets. Affordable housing targets are a goal of the state and a goal of the county. And as the county looks at, and the state now looks at competing priorities, they've got priorities around energy, they've got priorities around housing. And so as we kind of move through this process, to the extent we're identifying this as an area where we, if we were to identify this as areas where we see affordable housing and are targeting affordable housing and looking to enable affordable housing, that will be an interesting part of the process that then goes on after we've made our designations, because it sets up some competing priorities for that property. Councilmember Cotton, you had a follow-up?
No, I mean, if those deadlines are hard and fast and we don't have any, like I said, wiggle room on that to special circumstance type of thing, then, that was, I guess, basically answers my question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, and so just to bring up the potential zoning map for scenario 4 that we just discussed, that meets the housing target for all income band. And then matching with that might be potential future land use map. So that's so the future land use map is, you will see that this potentially annexation area will have more residential than what you have now in your existing future land use map. So that's that. So based on that, we will also be, we are also looking at some of the codes, because when we are changing the zone, what it means is that not just the map, but your zoning designations and the code updates. So we are looking at, and we have shared some with the Planning Commission as well, that these are some of the code changes that would bring the housing target and consistency with low-income housing. Right now, you have an R3 zone in your code, but you don't have a designation R3 in your map. So that's what we're proposing in the code update, that having an R2 district with, I mean, you already have R2 district, but apply regulations for that. And R2 and R3, those are the zoning districts that would be more closely tied to meet some of your zoning target. And also some consistency issues, and especially for Snoqualmie Ridge. Now that the map exercise has been to apply certain zoning for the Ridge area, now looking at what are the development regulations are going to be there. So we actually looked at closely the development regulations that Snoqualmie Ridge already has. And it's good news is that it's going to be consistent. So we are trying to bring Snoqualmie Ridge's development regulations consistent with the city's zoning so that city can apply the same set of regulations for the entire city. So there's no inconsistency in the overall code.
Councilmember Johnson.
In terms of that second bullet point there with the combining various R1 zones into one, can you help me understand what you mean by that? Is that like a geographic combination, or is that like a category of building combination?
Yeah, the latter one, yeah, because right now you have like in your code, you have R1 4, R1 7.5, R1 10, but your zoning map has only R1. So we felt that maybe city can consider combining all of those into one in the development regulations so that it can be monitored under one umbrella.
Councilmember Murphy.
I'm sorry if you're going back over this again, but could you talk a little bit more about some of the new regulations and clarifying language, the second to last bullet where you talk parking requirements, I'm guessing that's parking minimums and other things and levers that municipalities have at their disposal to meet some of these requirements.
Yeah, and Lisa can jump in, but also I wanted to just add that the state has passed the new legislation that would require, that actually has certain parking requirements. So ADUs would have, I think, 0.5 parking, and I have to look at that, but there are, and one parking per dwelling unit, so there are some more lenient parking requirements. So those are jurisdictions are required to have those in their codes, and we're seeing all the jurisdictions are updating their parking standards. So that's something we're proposing as well.
I think that there is still room for the marketplace, so some developers may choose to provide more parking, but the state's basically standardizing what the minimum requirements are.
Thank you.
Councilmember Holloway.
Why is the last bullet targeted for religious organizations?
So this is another affordable housing tools. So that's something that city can consider, that if a religious organization is providing affordable housing, then some jurisdictions are providing density bonus so that the housing can become affordable. And Lisa might want to add.
The city is required to have a process for such an organization to ask. So all the jurisdictions are having to provide that kind of a process to ask for a density bonus.
And help me get over the can't I do the same thing for any organization? Or is this a special thing for religious organizations?
You could do it for any organization in your code, just that in the state law, they passed some legislation a few years ago saying because church sites often have large parking areas and might be an opportunity to add housing that fits the mission of the religious organization. They're just saying you should provide an opportunity for somebody to come and ask for that bonus. You could still apply it in other zones for non-religious organizations too.
Okay, targeted means also limited in other ways, and I don't understand why we would limit that opportunity to any organization to help us make our targets. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a wise way to think about, what are some things you could do in multiple locations. This just happens to be on the list of things over the years the state has added opportunities for housing. That is one you just need to put in your code.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yeah, I'm aware of at least one other organization in the city that's non-religious that could be interested in that
Yeah.
same idea.
So we're at the tail end of the presentation, and I wanted to just bring up the schedule and next steps. So in the next step, as you are seeing our exercise, preliminary and ongoing process, so our goal is to bring all this draft to the Planning Commission, like Mayor mentioned already. So we will bring those and then consider annexation options. And then we are working with city staff to have the public hearing dates and process, but also to mention that the submittal to the King County Housing Affordable Housing Commission Committee that is coming up as well. And then City Council, you will consider this after all this process.
If I could, Council, just make sure that last point kind of lands, because it confused me when I sort of first became aware of how this works. That process with the county happens in essence simultaneously with what's going on with Planning Commission. I just find that surprising that it's not sequential, but that is the process. The advantage of that is that by the time you're looking at this, you will have King County's input. So that'll be available to you as you decide what you're going to do once you've received these recommendations. But that does actually happen sort of simultaneously, even though it might mean there are several, well, very likely will mean that there are several options that King County is looking at. So we'll get comments on all of that from them in time for your deliberations. Councilmember Murphy.
So kind of going back to a question Councilmember Cotton had earlier, if we were to adopt a with best scenario and the project is not built, or conversely, a without best scenario and the project is built, is there a correction process with the various state agencies that we're talking about where we can adjust those numbers accordingly?
You probably wouldn't adjust your target, but you could adjust your plan and zoning. And there's an annual docket process to do that so that you don't have to wait for 5 or 10 years to address it.
And just to clarify, for zoning inside the city, that's something the city can take up anytime we like. There's a process, goes through Planning Commission, comes through to you, but you could ask the Planning Commission to take up something like that anytime you would like to ask them to. The comprehensive plan updates can only happen once a year, but we go through that process every year of looking at whether there's anything to docket and then go through that process. So specifically, whatever's adopted this year, if you wanted to revisit it next year, you're able to do that. Councilmember Johnson.
In terms of what we're required to get done by the end of this year, what proportion of the work that's been laid out here would actually need to be adopted? Would that include a new map, updates to the comprehensive plan and code updates, or would it be some portion of that by December or at the end of December?
Everything is on the list, including code amendments. You have to show enough change in both your regulations and your plan to meet the opportunity for the targets.
Just to clarify, code updates, though, not all of the code updates need to happen by December 31st. Some of those can happen after year end. Is that correct?
The annexation related things, if you choose to do the pre-annexation zoning, you could defer that, but the other city code changes that are needed to make this work would need to happen.
Great. Councilmember Cotton.
So, Snoqualmie has considered annexation before of some of these parcels, and this might be more of a city question, but was there any approximate costs affiliated with this that came out that during that process or during that discussion where we, kind of know what, things that, would be going into that process and any costs that might be incurred by the city?
So great question. We'll have to look into that and report back to, so we'll capture that. We'll take that as a homework assignment. That is even before, there is one person in this room who I think was around when and that was considered as before my time on council. But let's go back and get that information and report back to you. Councilmember Holloway.
So in the county engagement, and this is additive to all this, but we're suffering right now where we're having a land use in the county which is contrary to what our planned land use was. So I'd like to avoid that in the future. Can we have discussions with the county of changing the county land use designation in the UGA to be consistent with our comp plan so that we're in sync together?
Do you guys want to field that or shall I?
That may be a political question.
Oh, yeah.
Question.
Well, the county has one designation and one zoning urban reserve, basically. My guess is that it would be probably to your advantage to do the pre-annexation planning and zoning, identify that or record that at the county auditor and work on an interlocal agreement with King County to get that. That is one process to facilitate annexation is an agreement.
So I'll just add to that. Yes, we can and I intend to have conversations with King County about what comes out of this process, what we're planning for. How does that fit with what they're doing? How can we work together towards our goals? That's something I think should absolutely be something our planning department is doing on an ongoing basis. And one of the things that I want to see us add to what they're doing with some of the staffing that you've approved, hopefully we can start doing on a regular basis. I think we absolutely should be. So the political answer is absolutely yes. And you heard the technical answer. Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, question. So the affordable housing target 735. Going in good faith for it. Let's say a wrinkle happens in the economy and we can't get that complete target built out in the allotted time. What consequences that is?
I think there's probably a couple of safety hatches. One is that your plan would be all the growth targets and the city and county comprehensive plans would be reviewed again in 10 years. And then you have your 5-year progress report to the state plus your annual ones to the King County Affordable Housing Commission. So I think the city would have a lot of advanced look at what the trends are, and that is so that you could course correct or make other choices.
I could add to that answer. It's sort of a possibly a little oversimplified. I'd say what we're responsible for doing as a city is enabling the growth targets to be met. So that's what this process is designed to do. And then we then will have, as you heard, code amendments. There'll be things that we need to affirmatively do to enable this to happen. It is not, however, our responsibility to cause it to happen. We don't have the resources, the ability to do that. At the end of the day, it is ultimately whether developers do that. What we have to do is do all the enabling steps and then continue to monitor what's going on. Are there further enabling steps? So that's sort of the non-technical answer of our responsibility. But specifically to your point, if those targets aren't met in the target timeframe, that's not what our responsibility is. Our responsibility is to do everything needed to enable that to happen. So that's sort of non-technical. Did I blow up anything from a technical perspective? No. Okay. Councilmember Cotton.
And then how soon after the council adopts this package, would the presentation go to PSRC for our approval.
Official. The city would send the approved plan. Typically, you have to send within 10 days to Commerce, so you might as well send within 10 days of adoption to Puget Sound Regional Council. I think, Mona, the deadline is December 31st.
Yes.
For the recording, that was yes.
That's everything we had.
Oh, did we go over this already?
Chair,
Oh,
you have
good.
another question.
We went over, sorry, presenters. We went over this slide already?
Yeah, we have already discussed this, but
Okay.
we can I just wanted to make sure that you have this and you see that how so many parallel components are going.
Councilmember Murphy?
So just one last comment. I think as we're thinking about the different scenarios, if the facility, the best facility is built or not, I think we should be very careful about the implications of land use planning around a facility that has not yet been permitted. And I think there's some things to think about with respect to land use consistency on that in the other process. So I think it's something for the city to just be very intentional around that.
All right. If there are no further questions, that was the presentation we're hoping to give. You'll be seeing a lot of activity, the Planning Commission. You'll see them gathering public comment in the coming weeks. And again, that leads up to, you saw the process, but it does lead up eventually to then something coming to you, which is then where the decision-making will be. So we'll try and keep you updated regularly on this. Feel free to keep an eye on the Planning Commission and what's going on there. And again, if you do have any input beyond what you gave tonight, feel free, if things occur to you in the coming days, please feel free to send it to me and we'll make sure it gets into this process to just help make sure that what does come to you has as much input from you in terms of things to make sure that they're considered, that those things are considered in the process as it comes to you. All right, with that, there's no further business on the City Council Roundtable agenda, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Councilmember Washington, seconded by Councilmember Johnson. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, our roundtable is adjourned, and thank you to our presenters. Good evening and welcome to the August 24th City Council regular meeting. Thank you for joining us. Madam Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Murphy,
Here.
Councilmember Watton,
Here.
Councilmember Holloway,
Here.
Councilmember Washington,
Here.
Councilmember Cotton,
Present.
Councilmember Tessman,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
We have a quorum, and the next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Murphy, would you please lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Who's footing?
The chair.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Washington and seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Cotton.
Yes, I'd like to amend the agenda to separate out item 10 of the consent agenda as a separate item for council discussion.
All right, we will do that. Councilmember Johnson.
Move to add evening, wait, do we need to vote on that before we do this? Oh, no, but they could just do that. They don't need to vote. Never mind. September 9th. Never mind. I'll just do my thing. Okay, move to add evening road work waiver to the agenda under committee of the whole.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Murphy. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries and the item is added. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The agenda as amended is passed. Next item on the agenda is proclamations. First proclamation is that September is Suicide Awareness Month. Whereas September is known globally as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month and was created to raise the visibility of the mental health resources and suicide prevention services available in our community. And whereas suicide is a national health problem and currently ranks as the second leading cause of death for those aged 10 to 24, and is one of the most preventable types of death in our nation. And whereas education about the warning signs of suicide and the value of preventive measures are essential to raise awareness about mental health, support those most at need in the community, and reduce the stigma associated with mental health crises. And whereas Empower Youth Network is a Snoqualmie Valley-based nonprofit organization that serves middle school students in the Snoqualmie and Riverview school districts with its mission to promote and inspire youth to lead safe, healthy, and successful lives while providing peer-to-peer suicide curriculum training. Now, therefore, I, James Mayhew, Mayor of the City of Snoqualmie, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2026 as National Suicide Prevention Month in the City of Snoqualmie and encourage all residents to understand the importance of mental health education and suicide awareness. With us tonight from Empower is Sarah Tarp, Prevention Program Manager of Empower Youth, and she will receive the proclamation and then say a few words.
Okay, hi, my name is Sarah Tarp. I'm the Prevention Program Manager at Empower Youth Network. Within my role, I get to lead our initiatives regarding suicide prevention and help support our substance use prevention and youth engagement team. From myself, Empower Youth Network, and our entire community, thank you for your support of Suicide Prevention Month. This work makes a difference. National studies show a continued decline in the number of teens aged 12 to 17 that are reporting serious thoughts of suicide. 12.9% in 2021 to 10.4% in 2025. Locally, here in the Snoqualmie Valley, 10th grade students reported a 7.6% decrease that they have seriously considered attempting suicide. These encouraging trends highlight the importance of continuing prevention and early intervention efforts to support the well-being of Snoqualmie Valley youth. With the combined efforts of Empower Youth Network and other Snoqualmie Valley human service providers, we are making a positive impact. Our suicide prevention programming in both the Snoqualmie Valley and Riverview school districts include a peer-to-peer How to Help a Friend suicide prevention training, with high school trainers reaching more than 2,700 middle school students this last year. Our elementary and community-based kindness campaigns, which include kindness activity books, bracelets, and yard signs, and free movies, help engage our whole community and all grades within our suicide prevention trainings. On October 10th, we'll be offering youth mental health first aid training in Fall City. This is a day-long training and can ensure that we all provide youth with positive mental health supports. You can learn more on our website. Thank you for your support of the work that we do. Without you, we would not be able to impact the lives of so many youth and families across the Snoqualmie Valley.
Thank you.
September is also National Preparedness Month, and tonight's proclamation will be accepted by Emergency Management Chief Bailey. Whereas National Preparedness Month provides an opportunity for residents, businesses, organizations, and community partners throughout the city of Snoqualmie to take meaningful steps to prepare for emergencies and disasters, including natural hazards and human-caused events. And whereas emergency preparedness is a shared responsibility that can help reduce the loss of life, protect property, strengthen community resilience, lessen the economic impacts of disasters, and every individual, family, business, and organization has an important role in preparing for, responding to, and recovering from emergencies. And whereas developing an emergency plan, building an emergency preparedness kit, staying informed, and knowing how to respond during an emergency are important steps individuals and families can take to protect themselves and help build a safer, stronger, and more resilient Snoqualmie community. Now, therefore, I, James Mayhew, Mayor of the City of Snoqualmie, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2026 as National Preparedness Month in the City of Snoqualmie and encourage all residents, businesses, organizations, and community members to make emergency preparedness a priority and take steps to protect themselves, their families, their neighbors, and our community. Chief?
Thank you, Council Mayor. Being prepared in an emergency is of utmost importance for our community. As you know, as you never know what type of emergency we may be faced with. In the past, the city has dealt with natural events such as floods, earthquakes, snowstorms, extended power outages, and damaging windstorms. I urge our citizens to visit the emergency management page on the city website and sign up for the alerts that are available, which includes the alerts for the city of Snoqualmie as well as those of King County. The website also has information for things such as real-time monitoring for flood and road closure updates and other things that are going on in the city. Another great resource of information is the makeitthrough.org website that is produced by the King County Office of Emergency Management. That has a lot of information that you can use personally for your family as well as your business to help you prepare an emergency. There's a lot of checklists and information that talk about making things that you can do at home with preparing your individual family with supplies that you may need, as well as the things to think about for your individual family. Again, that is makeitthrough.org, and that's put on by King County Emergency Management. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
At this time, we will provide time for public comment on items not on the agenda. Comments on agenda items will be taken during discussion of each item. Public comments are taken in person or in writing that may be submitted in person, mail, or email to cityclerk@snoqualmiewa.gov. First, a few ground rules. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Come forward to the podium and state your name and city of residence for the record. And please direct your comments to the council as a whole, not to individual members. Council members, staff, and I will listen to your comments and consider your input, but will not respond during this meeting. Are there any individuals wishing to make public comment tonight? No problem. You did a little bit of work this weekend.
A little bit. I was telling them I'm surprised I could walk after 26,000 steps on Saturday. I actually just want to thank the city and everyone that helped out with Snoqualmie Days. When this was handed to me 2 years ago, it was like daunting, to be honest with you, because it's, I mean, it's been a tradition for so long, and we wanted to keep things that, we'd already had, but we wanted to change some things. This year we made some major changes with not having a main stage because of the park being worked on. I think it turned out fabulous, honestly, with bouncing around and doing traditionally called a pub crawl, although this was more like a restaurant crawl. Every merchant had positive feedback for the first time since I've ever been involved with Snoqualmie Days. Every merchant actually had a positive fiscal day. I mean, it was fantastic. So, but I really do want to, it started with the mayor who came to me months ago and said, hey, Snoqualmie Days, what do you need? How can we help? Scott Harder was amazing with helping out with communication, gave me great ideas and work. Nicole being there constantly for me for permitting and everything else that needs to happen. I'm used to coming from events like Seafair where someone else did that for me. So it's, getting everything done. I was always late. I'm glad she's not here because I was always late with everything. Phil, Ryan, and Dalton, making sure that their crews, I want to list these guys by name, Ken, Kevin, Don, and Charlie, absolutely killed it on Saturday. I was out here at 5:30 in the morning, and when I showed up, they already had, the day before, I should say, and the days up to it, had already cleaned everything and were, making sure that the streets looked good, and they had blown everything off the sidewalks, and the street, sweeper was out there super early. And I mean, we looked good, and garbages and all the other things, and every little, I wouldn't say even a problem, but situation that came up, Ken and Phil were on it, calling me, making sure we talked together. I was telling Phil that today about how it was awesome to actually just go out and just look at what was happening and be able to come to a great solution. I think it really happened pretty seamless. Fire department, police department, everybody was there. Everybody was so helpful. The signage was great. The closures were great. The closure was, definitely on time, which is better than any other year we've ever had. And back open early. Yay. That was my goal, was to get the people back down into being able to, come to the restaurants at night after. So a lot of times if the road's closed, that's why we decided to end at 4 this year. And I think it really paid off. Garbage, never saw it. They were on it. Never saw it. Cleaning afterwards, Ken and I were talking about it. It was great. I mean, everybody pitched in, everybody helped. And I swear by 5:15, it was like we never even had a few thousand people here 2 hours before. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. And yeah, I was going to quit, but I don't know. I might stick around.
Thank you.
For the recording, that was Dory Ross, who lives in Snoqualmie and headed up our Snoqualmie Days event this year. Thank you for all your work. Any other individuals wishing to make public comment? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Consent agenda contains 6 items, with 1 item removed from the consent agenda. The 6 items are approval of the City Council special meeting minutes dated July 21st, 2026, approval of the City Council special meeting minutes dated July 28th, 2026, approval of the City Council special meeting minutes dated August 3rd, 2026, approval of the City Council special meeting minutes dated August 6th, 2026, approval of the City Council meeting minutes dated August 10th, 2026, and approval of the claims report dated August 24th, 2026. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Watton, seconded by Councilmember Holloway. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, council members, is there any discussion of the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The consent agenda is passed unanimously. Per council rules of procedure, the next item we take up is the item removed from the consent agenda, which is approval of amended minutes of the September 9th, 2019 City Council meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Holloway, seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Is there any public discussion on amending the minutes of the September 9th, 2019 City Council meeting? See none. Council, is there any discussion? Councilmember Cotton.
Yes, I just wanted to bring this item up for discussion it seemed like an unusual amount of change from the recording to what was on the minutes, and was wondering if this is a fairly common practice that we need to amend minutes that are, older than 5 years. Does that occur frequently, was one question. And, if this does occur frequently, is this something that's obviously might be a time-consuming thing for city staff to have to go back and, kind of compare audio and video and such with the minutes that were read. So I just wanted to bring this forward as a potential concern.
So, to my knowledge, amending minutes does not occur very frequently, fairly infrequent. And yes, it is a time-consuming process. This came to our attention because the topic of those minutes was under discussion by the council, and there was some confusion as to what exactly had been passed by the motion back in 2019. It turned out that the minutes did not correctly reflect. We were able to go back and listen to the recording itself and spot the errors that was in the advanced materials that went to you. So becoming aware that the minutes were wrong, we thought, well, better bring it back to you and have that corrected. But that is a fairly infrequent event. Councilmember Murphy.
I'd say though, there was no substantive change with respect to like the output of that vote. I'm trying to parse through what's different here, but my understanding is nothing changed substantively with respect to the outcome. Is that correct?
I suppose that would be an opinion. There were certain things that were said in the actual meeting that weren't correctly captured in the minutes.
I guess to follow up, because we went and I guess benchmarked or referenced this meeting when we amended our council rules and procedures. So I guess the question I have is what we do we have to go back and now change what we went and amended because of this change? Does that make what we did, I guess, invalid or some way, or is this just kind of clearing up and setting the record straight from the video recording and the written minutes?
Yeah, no, great question. The council rules of procedure as they stand today, let me back up. Subsequent to this event in 2019, just within recent weeks, the council made a decision to not do what was in this motion from back in 2019. So in 2019, a procedure was put in place. That procedure was not captured into our current rules of procedure. That motion or that procedure from that motion was reversed by this council, so is no longer functioning. So there's no need to change rules of procedure. They correctly reflect your current rules. We just know that these minutes were wrong. So the idea is that, well, since we know they're wrong, let's just clean it up.
Got it. That clarifies it. Thank you.
And just so you know, one of my questions was, gee, if we're just correcting minutes and it's just correcting it to what happened, is that not something that can just be handled? And the answer is no. The process of bringing minutes to the council and asking you to approve those minutes is a substantive procedure. So it's really only you that can change your minutes when we discover they're wrong. So that's why we have to bring it to you for your decision. right, seeing no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Next item, are committee reports. Public Safety Committee, is there any report?
Yes, a couple things. I want to first of all recognize and thank the Snoqualmie Fire Department volunteers. I saw them out at the breakfast in the morning and they were there in the evening finishing up on railroad days. And they put in a lot of time and I just want to acknowledge and thank them. Secondly, from the committee, we want to formally welcome Scott Miller as the police chief, and we're looking forward to working with him. And we also want to thank the time and the duration of our interim chief, Gary Haracy, and on a couple things. He stepped into his interim role with steadiness, professionalism, and a deep commitment to both our officers and community. His leadership has provided continuity, stability, and a calm, reassuring presence during a time of significant change. We also believe his service has strengthened the department and prepared us well for the next chapter under our new incoming permanent chief. Just a few things that I want to point out during his tenure that he successfully transitioned the department as we concluded the North Bend contract, retaining our officers and staff. He helped codify our e-bike and e-motorcycle municipal code. He encouraged input from residents on concern of traffic enforcement in school zones and neighborhoods. He reinstituted foot patrols in our business districts. He worked with the Washington State Patrol to help enforce covered loads, protecting our residents, and he's been a key member of the Small Police Task Force, working to ensure that we're one of the most safest communities in the state. So with that, we give a much gratitude to our interim police chief and welcome Scott Miller as our new police chief, carrying those things forward for us. So thank you very much on behalf of Councilmember Tessman and Councilmember Cotton. We appreciate the work that these two gentlemen have endeavored and know that that work will continue going forward. Thank you.
Fantastic. From an administration perspective, couldn't agree more with your comments, and I suspect that your comments reflect the entire council's viewpoint. Just as a reminder, council members, committee reports under your rules should be reports of activities that happened at your committee. It's not a time for individual council members to speak on things on their mind. Next is Community Development Committee. Any report from Community Development Committee?
We had our roundtable with Burke Consulting today, so nothing more at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Parks and Public Works Committee, any report?
Well, it's always action-packed at Parks and Public Works Committee. This week, we just reviewed some items, and so we'll be going forward and look forward to bringing some new happenings forward to the committee soon.
Thank you. Finance and Administration Committee. First up is Agenda Bill 26051, approval to authorize the mayor to execute the IAFF union contract. Councilmember Johnson, in just a moment. We could just, yeah. Sorry, just give us a moment here. Council, I'll just let you know as they're working with the technology, we do have new, you'll be very pleased to hear this, new Agenda Bill software coming online within the next month. So we are all, as I know you are as well, looking forward to that. With that, Chair, F&A Committee Chair Johnson, will you read in the background and, the introduction and motion?
Yes.
This collective bargaining agreement with the IAFF covers the period 2026 to 2028 and replaces the expired CBA covering 2022 to 2025. It sets the terms for compensation over the next 3 years, including cost of living increases, incentives for retention and education, and other work condition provisions. Move to approve IAFF CBA for 2026 to 2028 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Johnson and seconded by Councilmember Washington. Is there any public comment on Agenda Bill 26-051? Seeing none, is there any discussion, Council? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Agenda Bill 26-051 is passed. The next item is a presentation on the topic of procurement, purchasing, and contracting. Which I will give to you. And I think perhaps let me go through it and take questions at the end, although if you prefer, obviously, feel free to ask questions along the way, and hopefully I'll see you. If I look at my notes. So in recent years, there have been repeated instances of contract administration issues, several of which have come to council to ask for additional authority in order to resolve. These issues are continuing this year. Looking at kind of our purchasing process, before the city commits to any purchasing action, there are 6 questions that must be answered. Who has the authority to approve the purchase? Is a competitive selection required? What spending limit applies? Is a contract or amendment required with the right terms? How much has already been spent? And is enough authority remaining for the proposed purchase or work? The city, in fact, has no process that ensures these questions are answered before goods are ordered or work is authorized. The city instead relies on individuals across many departments, individuals who do not have this as a primary responsibility. They don't have contracting or financial training and have limited time and capacity beyond their primary duties. Rather than a purchasing system, departments are expected to do this on their own, interpret purchasing requirements, determine approval and spending authority, obtain quotes or select a vendor, identify required contract terms, determine when an amendment is needed, and track spending against authorized limits. No one routinely checks that these steps occur before the city becomes obligated to pay. So no existing employee has the assigned role, the specialized training, and available capacity to perform these functions across the city. Only council-approved contracts routinely receive broader clause review, the clauses that are in the contracts. Finance and legal staffing cannot provide comparable review for other purchases and agreements due to capacity. So what happens is that accounting often finds problems, if they exist, after the city is obligated. So the purchase or work is authorized, then goods are delivered or services are performed, then an invoice reaches accounting. But by this point, the city is already obligated. If there's excess or missing authority, then that gets discovered at the time the invoice reaches accounting. So accounting can stop or delay payment. It can't undo a purchase or prevent work that has already occurred. Last year, in 2025. There were repeated instances of coming back to council asking for authority retroactively to approve a contract that had gone beyond the amount that council had approved. And while the council approved a number of those instances, council repeatedly asked that after the fact authorization requests stop. Prior administration promised correction, but no supporting system or process improvement was established. Ultimately, there was a contract issue that came forward, the AHBL denial. There was a contract limit of 50,000. Work beyond the 50,000, excess work of $4,826 was performed. There was budget available, but the contract amount was beyond the authority that administration had, and council finally at that point denied the request for an additional contract increase. So AHBL was not paid for the services that city requested and delivered and received. By the way I became aware of this is seeing instances and seeing this particular item when I was doing the city administrator role during the period when we were looking for a new city administrator, and I was filling in on that. So the work that needs to be done can't be absorbed by existing staff or by the accounts payable department. Thinking about purchasing and contracting, it needs to happen before the commitment. We need to confirm authority and requirements. There needs to be a review of contracts and amendments, and there needs to be monitoring of authorized limits. Accounts payable happens after goods or services are received, when the payment invoices or the invoices are reviewed for payment. That's when we identify exceptions. So it remains an independent final check and needs to remain a final independent check. So assigning the function of accounts payable, apart from capacity issues, leaves the control too late and combines roles that should remain separate, the checking versus the upfront monitoring and contracting activities. This work is continuous and specialized. Existing employees already have full primary responsibilities. So I'm bringing this to your attention with a request that we establish a purchasing and contracting function now. This is a problem that is ongoing, that I'm very concerned will continue to result in exceptions to our rules. And so it's a risk that is active today. So my request is a procurement and contracts analyst, someone who would review purchases, contracts, and amendments before commitments. That would confirm purchasing requirements and approval authority. That would maintain the city's contract records and monitor balances, coordinate contract terms. So this is beyond the financial, coordinating contract terms, legal review, reporting, and training. So making sure that all of our contracts have the clauses they need to have, and would then lead the purchasing procedures and software improvements needed to implement the procedure, the software that we already have to assist in this function. So what I'm hoping is that you will authorize a position, approve the needed appropriation, and authorize us to recruit into this position. So that is my request to you. I'm happy to take any questions. Councilmember Johnson.
My remembering from F&A was that the request wasn't for that to occur tonight.
Sorry, I wasn't clear. I'm not coming to you tonight with an agenda bill. I'm coming to you with the discussion, looking for your support, looking for the direction you'd like to go on this, so that then having your input, we could decide where you'd like me to take this and where we would go in terms of that request. So that's my request of an outcome, but really what I'm looking for is hoping for is a discussion around that outcome. I wanted to give sort of a target, a request that would then be the basis for a discussion. Councilmember Cott.
So, how much time would be, by this potential person, would be dedicated to this, or is this something that can be shared with other types of work within the financial department, and what is the amount we're looking as far as for salary type of situation?
Yeah, great questions. I should have written them down, sorry. You may have to prompt me on some of those. So we looked at whether this could be something less than a full-time position. Could we combine this, for example, with some other position? We all know the budgetary pressures that we're under. And as you all know, I'm very reluctant to come ask for more staff. But this appears to be a full-time function. The thing, I kept putting sort of pressure on that question. And then the thing that kind of tipped me over to realizing I really think it is absolutely, frankly, more than full-time position, at least for probably the next year, is the need to get the software implemented that we've already purchased and have, but just hasn't been fully implemented. So software that would allow us to see where we at, where's the spending at against a contract limit, and so forth. What about contract terms? So why is it that some of our contracts continue to miss terms that have to be in the contracts? Why is it that sometimes we have to go back before we complete a contract and revise the contract because we didn't have a necessary term in there when we originally let the contract? So there's a lot going on here, getting our contracting squared away, meaning the contract terms, working with legal on that, getting processes in place so that happens routinely, and then implementing the software. So my thought is, honestly, a year from now, with the software fully implemented, with the processes bedded down, we might be able to get some portion of that FTE available to us to use for other things, but I think this is a solid FTE for a year. It's an analyst level position, so this is not a manager, or higher level. It's an analyst level position. So in terms of compensation, I haven't asked for a salary quote, from HR, but we could get that. But it would be what a typical accounting department analyst level salary would be. Follow up? Yeah.
So I do know that even on this meeting's consent agenda, that we are paying a temp for financial analysts. And is that something that this person can be incorporated into doing that type of work as well as what I don't know what, excuse my ignorance, but I don't know exactly what a financial analyst does all the time. But is this something that can be incorporated into that temp person's position?
Yeah, so great question. So financial analyst as a term is sort of a generic term. 30 years ago, we might have called that position a clerk. So it's just sort of a generic term for someone whose job is primarily doing the work, not a supervisor.
An analyst level.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's sort of referring to the level of expertise and experience that you're looking for. As far as having someone, let's see, that wasn't your question. Your question was, are we using temps right now to fill in other places in the city? In the finance department, we have some temps in helping us prepare the budget. So there's just an enormous amount of work, analysis, and so forth that needs to be done. So that's an entirely different set of work that will probably continue on until we get the budget ready. So they're really two separate tasks completely. Councilmember Watton.
Thank you, Mayor. There are a number of things that I find that that are a bit concerning. First of all, I understand that our limit was 50,000. We went 4,800 over that in this particular instance. But I also have to balance it with this. We're here to set policy. We're here to set budget. And we give a certain amount of flexibility over to the administration to handle the details to it. To me, it sounds like it's a workflow issue. It's something that, it's a deep dive into the process and how invoices and how contracts are written and administered. The other thing is we've made a $3.2 million commitment to Tyler, which is in part to help us track this better. And I guess the frustration is this. A position of this order, and we can go back and forth with HR on what the cost is. It's going to be $150,000 for that position. And we aren't necessarily a small city. We have close to 100 employees, and there's flexibility in what people do, but there's also constraints because there are defined roles that you just can't move people necessarily out of, one department and put it into another. So I guess it comes down to is, if the instance of this is a one-off, that's one thing. But if it amounts to greater than 150,000, then we've got a bigger issue. If it's, we've missed a few contracts, 2 or 3, because of things that are beyond, well, we need as a council to make sure that we have the process in place to ensure that that doesn't repeat. But there's a certain amount of trust that we put in the administration, which includes the mayor and the city administrator and the department heads, and especially finance, to help us figure this out with our existing resources. We're at the end of the biennium. We're going to start a new biennium. If it's a priority, then we need to put that into our biennial budget and do so. But I'm a little frustrated, and it's not directed at anyone in this room, but that we need a greater understanding of where we are on the implementation of Tyler, because the whole intent was to help us track this and to make sure that we have reports. And we're not there. And I don't know if we're 30% implemented with Tyler, 80%. We just need to have that understanding. So as we go through this process, I don't want to just, pick and choose now something that is going to be part of that, 2-year, 5-year, whatever cycle that we're going to be fixed to. And I think accounting for the money is going to be very important, but I don't want to spend a lot of time in the council going through and doing forensics with what happened before. All that I'm just asking for is the administration to come back and work with finance, work with department heads. What is the process that's broken today that needs to be fixed, and that the council can help augment it? But to say, we need this position, we need it now, I'm not ready for that. And I'm just not on board with that part.
So if I could help with some answers there. There has been an extensive process internally to look at why is this happening? Why does it keep happening year after year, contract after contract? And if you look at individual departments and you look for who in this department, who, for example, in the fire department would do this, and you're left identifying no one. And so we ask ourselves, does that mean we want firemen doing this, firefighters doing this? You can go department by department. We have 8 people in the Streets and Parks Department. Do we want people to come off of their job taking care of our streets and parks to do this task, a task they're not qualified for, not trained for? So we looked very hard at, was there anywhere that we could find resources to do this? And we couldn't find it. And that's why we're coming to you and asking for the additional resource. I think waiting another 4 months exposes the city to risk. I think that the likelihood that we will have to come to you and ask you for approval for contracts that have exceeded the amount you gave is reasonably high. And the thing I don't like There are many things I don't like contracts that are missing clauses that have to be there that we then have to retroactively fix. I don't like exceeding contract values. I don't like the culture that that creates. I think we want a culture of accountability. I think we have very hardworking, good people who are being asked to do things outside of their job responsibly, and I can't find anywhere in the staff to do that. I will say that certainly asking the mayor to do this is not appropriate. That's not the mayor's job to go track individual contracts. I think that we have a responsibility as the leaders to look at what we're asking our people to do and ask whether we've given them the resources to do it. And if we really believe that month after month, year after year, that these things are happening because our people are not doing what they should be doing, I think I just don't see that. That's not my assessment. Anyway, Councilmember Holloway.
All right, three things. One, the contract cited is a bit of a red herring in that the issue was it was a firm fixed price contract and they came back and said, oh, we went over. After several conversations of what part of firm fixed price don't you understand, the staff, council said, no, firm fixed price. That's what it means. Okay. Two, I will again state it is a director's responsibility for the performance to budget for their departments, including the contracts in those departments. I do not accept that directors were accepting contracts they could not manage. That's a different subject if that is a true statement. Okay? So, but I do see that there is, yes, there's an implementation job to get that contract management portion of the software going. That may be a narrow scope of work and maybe more appropriate as a temp position versus full-time position, because after that, I'm generating, I have a head underutilized. And in the budget situation we're in, we can't do that. Okay, so need to take a closer look at that. Third, I'm frustrated that we at least have a 1.5, $1.9 million hole that is only getting deeper. That there are plus ups beyond that, in addition to this, that we ought to consider as a whole to say as a council, yes, I want these, no, I don't want those. We need to get into that discussion yesterday. So I'm begging that we have the focus on that discussion, decide what we're doing budget wise, and if we're going to go to the community asking for a levy lid or not. Until then, we should hold off on grand new ideas that are going to cost us money, because I don't know how it compares to the other ideas we already have that we've stated. We need to look at it all and decide what we're moving forward with. So I'm done at that stage.
Right. Just a couple thoughts to consider on what you've said. When we say department directors, we mean people like the police chief. So we're saying we expect our police chief to monitor all the contracts having to do with the police department, monitor where their spending is at on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. We're assigning duties that we don't typically expect a police chief to do and certainly aren't in their current job descriptions.
Chair,
I'm sorry, just Mike, just responding to your comments.
Well,
it's my job to
clarification.
No, I'm sorry, there's no such thing as a point of clarification. If you would like me to be quiet, I will, but in that case, let's pretend that you're responding to what the administration has brought to you. If you want a discussion on this, let's have a discussion, but it's your council. I am not a member of your council. There are 7 members, just chairing the meeting for you. So if you want me to be quiet and just let you say these things about our staff, then I will. But I just want you to know all of those staff are listening to you and scratching their heads and trying to understand how they can do what you're asking them to do. I'm not bringing this to you lightly. I'm bringing this to you because I know that since I got here and the budget that I'm administering, I had nothing to do with. I inherited as a new mayor. Okay, the position counts are what this council gave to me, not necessarily each of you, but the council gave to me. I'm trying to do the best I can with what's here, and insisting that our people can do things that physically cannot be done because there's not enough time in the day. You can take that position, but there are consequences of that. We will continue to miss these contract amounts. We will continue to have to revise contracts because terms are not in there. This is what I'm trying to bring to you. Anyway, Councilmember Cotton.
Yes, I would venture to say that there's not one council member here that's disparaging any of our staff, and that was not said. However, I do know that, department heads are responsible for their own budgets. While this is kind of a different aspect of that, I do think that the department head does oversee, what's going on within their department spendings and things like that, maybe on a, higher level and not down in the weeds. But I would like to go back to Councilmember Watten's point about, trying to determine where are we in this conversion process over to the software that's going to make all this easier, that has had so much city time and money invested in it. So I think that's certainly something that council should be able to have access to that information about where are we in this process, because I think it's long overdue already.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I've asked for the same information. Understand it's going to be a while till we get it. The council removed all funding for implementation of software over a year ago. There's no one for me to ask that question to. So somehow the accounting staff's going to have to put that all together, and I've asked them to do that. This is not the first time council members have brought that up, and I have the exact same question. I agree with you. But there is very little going on right now to implement that software because it's only being done in between their regular tasks, which they're already overloaded with in accounting already. You've seen some of the statistics I brought to you on how many errors are happening, how little analysis they have time to do. So we are trying to get that information on system implementation, but understand, I'm not talking about monitoring budgets. I'm talking about monitoring contracts. Contracts are where the issue is. I completely agree that department heads are absolutely responsible for their budgets and meeting them. I will tell you that they are hobbled in that as well. I'm not bringing that to you tonight, but the reporting they're getting from our systems is very late. And so, especially as you come in on the end of a biennium, they're having to do a lot of work to try and figure out, wait a minute, where are we going to end up? Because our accounting system, our reporting system is not giving that information to them on a timely basis. Although it is much more timely now than it was even when I took office. Our accounting staff's done a tremendous job of focusing on trying to get that reporting faster and more accurate. But yeah, I agree. It would be helpful to know where the Munis system is in implementation, but understand that will not help with the issue I'm bringing you tonight. I'm bringing you an issue or it will not solve the issue I'm bringing you tonight, which is not a budget monitoring problem, is a contracting problem. Councilmember Cotton.
Just to follow up, and yes, I understand that it is a contract problem, but we are still paying even from this meeting's consent agenda, like 60 grand a month on this software. So I just was wondering, so obviously we're still working on this, and doesn't that allow us to have some kind of technical expertise from the software company to be helping staff with the implementation of this?
Great question. Yes, we're paying for the software. We are paying for modules that are not fully deployed or in some cases not deployed at all. And no, that amount does not assist with implementation. So as our staff does implementation and they have questions, they do get some support on that. But actually implementing modules and taking some modules are initially implemented without customization, and then you need to do a lot of work to really customize it to how we do things here. All of that work either has to be done by our staff or by contractors that we bring in to do that implementation work. And the current contract does not include that. And I share what I think was some frustration I heard with, well, then if we're paying for this software, are we paying for software that we're not even using or fully using? And then the answer is yes, we are. And I find that I find that very frustrating. I have a feeling you do as well. Councilmember Murphy.
Yeah, so I think in reading the materials in the packet and then the presentation here, it seems like two things can be true. We have a control problem or a process problem that needs fixing. Now, whether an FTE is the solution to that, I think is the big question that a lot of us are kind of wrestling with. I think to help us perhaps get there, one thing we might want to consider is quantifying the workload. How many contracts, how many amendments, how many purchase orders, some of the things that this individual may have across their desk, I think would help bring to life the potential cost savings that may occur with respect to this individual. Even then, though, to Councilmember Holloway's point, we're in the hole, right? This council made a decision to not go to the voters this year, that we have to figure this out as a city. So making that hole deeper is something that I have a lot of heartburn with. This, I think, could potentially work in another way where the role is scoped out in advance and perhaps put together, and the case is then made at some later point. Or there's another opportunity where we look at offset, right? There's some sort of like one-for-one offset with respect to this role comes in and some commensurate spending goes down. But I share the heartburn that other council members have expressed here with respect to the current budget situation, wanting to get our arms around that yesterday. And it seems like as we're headed towards some sort of cliff, pumping the brakes versus putting the gas down is a prudent way to think about this. From a budget from how we think about this from a macro perspective. Thanks.
So we took your point on quantifying some numbers. We'll try and get that information back to you. I would point out, I've been on the job for 7 months. The problems I'm bringing to you did not happen in those 7 months. They're what I found when I got here. So I think we collectively have a problem to take on and figure out how to solve. I think if there's a sense that somehow the administration or the mayor is responsible for this, I please ask you to rethink that. We didn't change things when I got here. These problems are problems I inherited, as you know from your own actions you've had to take over the last couple of years dealing with all of these contracts that have gone over budget. And by the way, I wanted to double back. Councilmember Holloway's point about this particular contract that I called out is true. That was one. Perhaps that I should have looked for a different one as an example. I just wanted to make the point that really the point that I was trying to make was not so much about this contractor as it was about the fact that the council finally got to the point where they said, no, we want something done. We want something changed. And what I'm trying to come back and report to you is we can keep saying that. And I think, look, I see things on the inside. Now, I haven't had to come back to you yet this year, but I have had contracts that went over what I authorized, still within what I can authorize. I am not happy about that. And I look for the process that's going to stop that. And that's what's leading to this. More importantly, and I don't want this to get lost in the budget discussion, there are contract terms that are not present in some of these contracts. That worries me even more. We've had to go back to contracts that didn't have required terms, revise them, And because we revised them and added requirements to the contract, we've had to pay more because we have to pay for that. And here's the thing, that should have been in the contract all along. So there's contracting terms, there's monitoring. I worry about the fact that I'm going to find these problems when accounting catches it, when the invoice comes through and they say, whoop, you're over. That's what worries me the most. What do we do in those situations? Perhaps if it's the contractor's fault, we say, contractor, this is on you. But I'm seeing cases where it's not just the contractor. It's our own struggles to monitor these contracts. And then I look at some of the contracts we have are drawn on by multiple departments. So now who's responsible for monitoring that? So, for example, temps. Anyway, it's a complex problem is all I'm trying to say, and I'm trying to kind of work this problem and bring you what I see. So we will get this more additional information, anything else you ask on this, to help you be in a position to make a judgment on this. Councilmember Johnson.
So one of the things on my mind is when earlier, I believe it was this year, the council approved a new FTE for CD that if you look at the budget materials that were presented to us recently with regard to the levy lid lift, you'll notice that was the one department that had a negative deficit, if that makes sense, if I said that right. In the future, it was like it would net a positive 100,000, even though we're adding FTE. And that's in part because of the assumption that that particular position could end up bringing in something. Now, what I don't know is below the $50,000 spending limit for contracts that the mayor is authorized to sign or to take care of without coming to council. How many are sitting down there at around like 15,000 and it comes out, oh, it's actually 20,000 in the end? How many were 30,000, ends up being 40,000? I don't know the answer to that. But hypothetically, it'll only take 30 in the biennium to net out per year, sorry, to net out to $150,000 that we're at $5,000 over the contract. So there's hypothetically the possibility that it could approach how much the FTE costs, or maybe even exceed in terms of the savings on that front. I don't know those numbers, so that's a question to the administration is how many dollars are we talking about for these overages? And I wonder if the administration would be willing to provide the information for those that are below the $50,000 threshold so that we can feel informed on that decision.
Absolutely. We'll add that to the information you're requesting. And again, I do want to emphasize, I agree that those are important points. I am most worried about the lack of controls here. And you all know my background. You know why that's something I'm going to sort of look to first always. You know, one of the things that I worry about is you can imagine a system that doesn't make sure, that doesn't control, so doesn't make sure a bad thing doesn't happen. Yet a bad thing still nevertheless doesn't happen. Does that mean that everything's fine? Or does it mean you're operating with a bunch of risk and one day that may come home to roost? Now, in our case, we are having these overages regularly. And more importantly, in my view, we have contract terms missing that we have to go back and fix. And that creates a legal exposure for the city as well as financial exposure. So the controls are not in place. And honestly, I do not like going to employees who clearly would not normally have a contract monitoring responsibility or contract clause contracting responsibility and ask them to do this function. I think that's the wrong thing for us to ask. Now, there are some employees we find, yes, you should be doing that. We're going to add that to your job description. But there's enough of this to cause me to come and ask you for this position, and there's enough volume here to come and ask you for this position. Sorry, is it Councilmember Tessman next?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I would just add to the last point, I think that'll be the data requested will help inform a discussion on potential FTE versus contract. Because I think if that potential savings is there, which probably is, right? I would expect that would exist in year one, let's say, and to hopefully go down precipitously over subsequent years. And so I think that'll be an important part of any discussion on, okay, are we talking FT or contract? Outside of that, I think I would just echo the sentiments previously expressed that, you know, given our calendar timing and given the discussion on the budget that's unfolded so far, the most responsible path is just to tackle this as part of the normal budget discussion.
So appreciate your comments. Just understand, it's 4 months to go. If we don't do something now, I anticipate coming to you with some of these problems within the next 4 months and having to ask you to help me fix those problems. So that's just something to keep in mind, that if we, as the leaders, take on a risk, we're going to have some ownership, if you will, in fixing those when they happen. Now, that's no excuse not to expect things of employees. And I want to be clear, my expectation on controls of contracting, my expectation is 0 defects. I look at our process right now and I don't see how we can achieve that. In fact, I see a process that seems highly likely to continue producing defects, and that's why I'm coming to you. Councilmember Washington, were you next?
Yeah, no, I mean, you've laid out a good case here. I have every reason to believe that the position is probably needed, some bridge until we can get Tyler implemented. The challenge for me is the $1.9, $1.5 million we're in the hole. And albeit, Mayor, I totally get it. You don't want this conversation lost in budget, but I'll speak for myself, maybe some of the other council members. I think that's where we're driving, is that we need to have that conversation, because there's a feeling of, well, we can't just continue to spend. I mean, there's no deficit spending at the city level. So where does the money come from? And, you know, the body essentially just said no to the levy lit lift. So for this year, what are we looking at for next year? And, you know, effectively, okay, what is this going to cost? But let's start having those budget conversations sooner than later.
Councilmember Holloway.
Do we have a scheduled executive session at 8 o'clock?
Yes, I'm sorry. I should have told you all at the beginning. They had to push it till 8:30 because of another matter that's going on. So I apologize. I should have let you know right when you're approving the agenda. The city clerk did pass me something right at 8 o'clock saying, you got to go. But actually it's 8:30, and I apologize for not letting you know. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. At F&A, when the mayor presented this, I asked the mayor to also present this to council. And the reason was specifically so that this was on council's radar as we are headed toward getting into the budget, which my intent from F&A is to try to get a budget roundtable at every council meeting for basically the rest of the year. We got to get on it. But so that it wouldn't feel like late November, all of a sudden the administration pulls this on us and says, oh, and there's also this FTE. So this was already something that the administration had presented to council. We're all aware that this is the solution that the administration has come up with, and we don't have to take it. But that way we are informed going into that process that this is in the back burner and we can fold that in rather than it being a last minute, oh, and by the way.
All right, if there's no further discussion, move on to the next item.
Mr. Bank is ready. You want to?
Oh, he is?
Yes.
Okay. So 8 o'clock became 8:30, has become 8:10. So your choice is, let's just take a look at the agenda if we could.
I think I'm ready. I'm ready to move.
Councilmember Johnson.
Move to amend the suspend the rules so we can amend the agenda and have the executive session at 8. I guess it's 11.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Holloway. Is there any public discussion? Seeing none, is there any discussion, council? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. With that, we will go now into into executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101I regarding potential litigation. We will return to open session at 8:45. With that, we are in executive session.
At 8:55.
It's 9:56 and the council's returned from 8:50. So let me try that again. 8:56 and the council has returned from executive session, resuming the agenda at item 13, which is under Finance and Administration Committee, topic of 2027 legislative priorities.
Yep.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. So the legislative priorities, that is something that we tend to go over every year, and we submit those to our representatives at the state. We adopt them as a council, and these are supposed to be requests for the state legislature to take action on things that are important to the city. Last time we were a little late getting to the party, to the tune of we got them out like a couple of weeks before the end of session or something. Trying to get this done a little bit faster this time so they get them well before session. That way, going into the session, they can already have these in mind and they could start teeing some things up. Truth is that if they really get them at the beginning of the session, it's probably too late by then anyway. So we should probably try to get these together within the next couple months or so. We've got a number of things here that are taken straight from our last set. Just because that was our last set doesn't mean it has to be our next one. We can remove things, we can add things. I have some things myself that I would like to change about them. There are a couple ways we could do this. We could talk about this as a council each time. We could refer this back to F&A. F&A bring a recommendation to the council. So before we get into the exact details of going bullet point by bullet point here, I just wanted to have kind of that high level conversation and get a sense of how the council thinks they want to tackle this at this point. Just real quick, I'm just curious if the administration had anything to add. Oh, yes, actually, I'm sorry. One more thing, Mayor, if I may. That something that the council has struggled with is that each of us have our priorities and we have a whole lot of them. The longer the list gets, the harder it is for the legislature, our legislators, to prioritize them. And historically, we've put them in order more or less by priority level. Administration, I was just curious if you had anything to add to what I said.
A couple thoughts. There are a number of things that I would like to suggest go in our legislative priorities. So this is just word for word. This is exactly last year's. So what I'm hoping is the next time, whichever group of you or all of you eventually obviously are going to see this, is to add in some suggestions to you of things I would recommend we put in. Also, I wanted to share with you two things. One is our county council member has already called twice asking us to get going on these. So I think we have a great opportunity here to put in things that we would want from the county. And I just can think of one thing right out of the gate that we might like to put in there. Just maybe think about that as well. I'll also share with you that all 6 of our state representatives that represent Snoqualmie, one part or another of Snoqualmie, have now asked already just in the last 2 weeks or so whether we've started looking at legislative priorities. So we're right on time. And I think just to sort of highlight the Mayor Pro Tem's comments, they want to hear from us now. So not only getting these priorities out is a wise idea, but then I think there's a period where each and every one of the 8 of us have a chance to call and talk or meet with these legislators and really push these ideas. I would also just second the comment made that, and this is always tough because there's a lot of things that we want, and there's 8 of us, The, the thing is, the fewer we have, the more punch they have. And that can be a really frustrating discussion of, do I really want to give up item number 6, which is really important, if I get bigger punch on item number 2? So it's just something that we'll have to work through during this process. But my own thought was maybe gather the input from each of you, kind of put together an amalgamated kind of, here's everybody's input, that then lets people kind of work down from there. But it's whatever approach, obviously, we'll support whatever approach you want. Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, so 2 things. Last year, if I recall correctly, I think we did it in a roundtable, right? I think we did it in a roundtable. The other, so yeah, so I don't know, an option, maybe not, I don't know. But I like the idea of making sure that we do it at the county level as well, because we didn't do that last year and wasn't very good. So, are we thinking 2 separate lists? Is that the idea?
Well, you know what, I think we can figure that out as we go. When we start from one list, see how it feels. We could do 2 lists, or 1, so we can kind of make that decision. I will tell you, we're scheduling some training, hopefully in the next month or so, on you know, the Jurassic Parliament kind of stuff, but also just kind of the state rules that govern how we do things. For what it's worth, the reason we have roundtables is this discussion we're having right now, this is actually a violation of Robert's Rules of Order. Under Robert's Rules of Order, during your regular meetings, you have a motion, a second, and discussion of the motion. So the whole point of a roundtable, the reason they're in the council rules of procedure, is to allow this kind of discussion, which is outside of those rules. So I guess to the point you asked, would it be in a roundtable? My view is absolutely. That's exactly the conversation I think that everyone's looking for. So we probably need to get a little more disciplined about that, but this is all working for us. So, but yeah, we should probably get to a little better discipline. Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Johnson and then Councilmember Murphy.
Just real quick on the history of that. We actually did have a couple of county things. The previous administration, if I remember correctly, had recommended them. This council decided to separate that list, and we'll see if those ever come up again. But I think that there's value in separating the list so that we could focus on the one that's, I think, has a little bit more of a time constraint before us, which is the start of the legislative session. And then we can have a little bit more runway for the county segment. Also, county deals with different issues than the state does anyway, so it'd be potentially confusing to say, well, that's a county issue. Why is this on this list for us? So I think there could be benefits in separating the list.
Councilmember Murphy.
I fully support the idea of a roundtable, and I think one that includes all of our input, I think would be really great. I think another thing for us to consider as we're doing that would be identifying high need projects where we have numbers and funding asks and something very tangible to bring to our elected representatives. There's obviously, there'll be a policy component, which is of course important, but I think having a narrow set of asks with numbers attached to it, I think would be a great thing for us as we look to find much needed other sources of revenue.
Councilmember Johnson.
So in terms of a roundtable, which I think I tend to agree that I think that'd be the best way for us to go about this. We're running up against the clock on a lot of things here. This always happens at the end of the year. But the budget, I still think, takes the #1 priority for us. We've got a big task in front of us there. So I would wonder if this could be something that we'd be willing to do as a special meeting, as a roundtable discussion. Or I guess the roundtable starts at 6 per council rules and procedures, if I remember correctly. So anything that's not at that time wouldn't be a roundtable, it'd be a special meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll look into for you the mechanism by which you could have a special meeting that was a roundtable discussion. So I think we can, I feel pretty confident we can do that. We'll just give you the mechanism by which you accomplish that. All right, seeing no further discussion. The next item on the agenda is item 14, update regarding the presentation about King County permitting process. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Right. So this is that we had invited Leon Richardson to come from the King County Permitting to give a kind of a presentation and have some back and forth. That was going to be and it was scheduled for tonight, but given the changes that have occurred with regard to the proposed land use in unincorporated King County, the F&A committee felt like that may have become a moot point at this time with regard to that particular presentation. So we decided was to come back to council, say, do we still think that that would be a valuable use of our time? And if so, we can always invite Leon Richardson back for another opportunity for discussion. But given the state of that, it seemed like maybe there could be other council priorities like the budget. Another thing we could do is we could ask someone from FSEC to perhaps come in and talk to us instead. Doesn't mean they will, but we could send an invitation potentially. So that was the intent. I guess we're again having a discussion here without a motion on the table. But
Councilmember Cotton.
Wasn't also Mr. Richardson's presentation not going to allow questions regarding a specific
correct.
project?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Councilmember Tessman.
Yeah, my 2 cents would be, if we thought that a meeting with Mr. Richardson could help address the question that was raised in an earlier agenda item, which was how do we ensure that whatever we come up with during the comprehensive plan discussion, rezoning discussion, that gets tied in, reflected in King County zone planning. If his presentation could allow for that discussion or talk to that, I would be supportive of that. And then second, I'd be supportive of requesting FSEC to provide a presentation. If for no other reason, then it would be more information for the community.
Councilmember Johnson.
Because of the role that Leon has, I doubt that those two things would connect. But if administration has a different opinion on that, that's fine. I just don't think that they would.
Agree, and for what it's worth, he wasn't going to come anyway. He was going to send a guy from the permitting division, because permitting division is one of many divisions that report to him in the Department of Local Services, which is actually what he heads up. But yeah, agree with your comment. If you want to focus on learning more about FSEC's process, then those are the guys we should really see if we can get a presentation from. Don't know if they'll come, but we can ask.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, I'm interested in both. You know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're the chair.
So lost my train of thought. When we ask the county to come do that presentation, I understand they're sending senior people. There's a whole team that's involved. We're asking a lot. So we should not ask lightly. Because once we ask and they come, if we want them on something else, you only get so many asks. So make sure you really want that now, that it's really worthwhile now, is my advice. And if now's not really the time, hold that in reserve, would be my advice. It's a big thing for them. And I'm not saying this well. They are committed to meeting our request, which is a big commitment from them. That's a big thing, and we should not, take it lightly. That's all I'm saying. I'm not accusing you of taking it lightly. I'm just encouraging you to keep that in mind. Councilmember Johnson.
Okay, then I hope that this motion, it's on the agenda. Maybe I can't make that motion. All right, never mind. The chair will allow it. All right, I'll just do it if that's okay.
Councilmember Johnson.
All right. You can just rule me out of order if it's out of order. Move to invite a representative from FSEC to come and present and allow Q&A at a future council meeting.
Second. Motions by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Murphy. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Holloway.
Consideration friendly amendment to unrequest King County.
If we need to, but
For the council's information, I've told King County that they did not need to come tonight and that I would let them know if there was a further request, when and if there was a further request from the council to hear from them. They said, great, fantastic. Let us know if you ever need to hear from us. But they don't have it on their calendar to come speak to us unless we make a further request to them. All right, hearing no second, the motion to amend dies for lack of second. Back to the main motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right. Okay, next item on the agenda is item 15 is flood update. Councilmember Johnson.
no update.
And the next item on the agenda is potential land use in unincorporated UGA. Councilmember Johnson.
So as per usual, just like our previous item, we want this to come to council from FNA for the time being. Even if there isn't a significant amount of discussion to be had, because nothing significant has occurred in the recent time. But I did think that it was important, just in case anyone is watching this and isn't aware, to just know that the Jupiter Power has, I'm not sure what the proper phraseology is, but they have requested that their permit no longer be processed by King County. And they have publicly stated that they intend to apply with FSEC, which is a state process instead of a county process. I didn't have anything else to add at this time to that administration.
Councilmember Holloway.
Then we have yet to see the FSEC application.
Right.
Correct. And for members of the public who may be interested, council's probably already aware, we did post today on the city website a news announcement just saying basically what you just said, Councilmember Johnson. They've gone, Jupiter's moved to FSEC. Here's what that, at a very high level, here's what that means. And we did give links to where the public can go see where an FSEC filing would happen and give them an email address if they wish to make any comments directly. So that's pretty much the information we have at this point. And as we all learn more, then we'll share it. All right. Any further report from Finance Administration Committee?
No further report.
Next item is Committee of the Whole. This is the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital item. Council Member Johnson.
Move to exempt Snoqualmie Valley Hospital from Snoqualmie Municipal Code 9.36.020 for improvements at Southeast 99th Street and Snoqualmie Park Way intersection for a period not to exceed 31 days.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Washington. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, is there any discussion, Council? Councilmember Holloway.
I believe what the request is work to be done within a window of 31 days. Do we have any indication of how many days within that window will be actively used?
The expectation is probably most of them. I was going to go on and talk about something separate, but that's the answer to your question. Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, just kind of question here, the last sentence on the back here. So no direct communication with nearby residents, given the areas, the limited areas impacted. I mean, my concern is that just this neighborhood, I mean, that's kind of remember which neighborhood, that's the name of that neighborhood, but that's Panorama, but Cascade View, I can't remember. It looks like there is going to be some impact for those residents. Is it wise to just provide them with a notice?
Chair. there are two two residential buildings.
Mhm.
And if the council was to require, if you were to amend your motion to require notification by SVH of those two properties, then that would be something we require them to do. Councilmember Holloway.
Well, one, this is somewhat, excuse the pun, over the hill. But, can we have can we request information that we can post for the community to say, hey, construction's happening at this time, whatever. I'm just worried of no communication. Somebody's gonna see lane closures at night and wonder what's going on with long poles coming in to put stoplights in and all that. So I'd rather, can we request that just to have some communication to the community what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we can make sure that the city can make sure that we do that communication. And we can make sure that happens. We do have more technical information behind, when, what lane, all the details behind it. So we have the information we need to do that. So we can absolutely take on the communications, ensure the communications happen well on that. So we'll do that. Councilmember Cotton.
Doesn't it occur that with with these types of projects that there's also something posted at the site? Like SVH would put up a posting that says proposed notice of action or, something like that where,
You know, he said he'd take it on.
They're two separate issues, the voice abatement versus keeping mass about the voice abatement. That's just kind of,
What's communication?
Yeah, just.
You want those two houses notified? That's why I'm getting, those two houses.
That's kind of those single family homes down there.
No, that's the hospital. That's panorama.
Single family.
Yeah, they're just 800 gets in that house.
Joining us remotely is City Engineer Hind Ahmed. Did I get it right, Hind?
Yes, correct.
Ahmed?
Yes, Ahmed.
Oops, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Well, speak again. I think we're working on it on our end. Speak again if you don't mind. Is it?
Can you hear me now?
No, still cannot hear you. We see you.
Sounds like.
Relay it to us.
Can you hear me now?
I think we can make you out. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the question about the message, there is usually a message board similar to what we put down before any road closure. You can think of when we did the closure in Meadowbrook Way. We usually ask for a message board to be out there a week in advance. That's something we can ask for either on this exemption or when we grant them the right-of-way use permit, just to have heads up to the residents before the closure.
We can also ask for it to be 3-4 days in advance, up to a week in advance before the start of the construction.
Okay, and so we will do that. Assuming you approve this tonight, we will do that. Councilmember Washington.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, sorry, it's late. My brain is fading here fast. Can we do it without making the motion? Can administration do it, or do you need
All
the
right,
motion
no,
to come from
hold on a
council?
second. It would be best if the council, as part of its approval, put in that condition.
Through a motion.
Yes, so, City Attorney, what would that motion sound like?
Thank you.
Move to require pre-construction posting for Parks and Public Works.
We're learning residents.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you
let
have
her
words?
get it.
Or do you want to use his words?
His words are fine.
Councilmember Holloway.
Don't ask me to repeat it now. That's not fair.
It's a motion
Yes.
to amend.
Move to require construction notification posting on site per direction from Parks and Public Works.
Second.
Uh,
Yeah, that's.
Sorry, just so that we get this right. I think it was a motion to amend the motion to add a requirement to notify the two buildings that are within the 1,000-foot radius?
Two buildings,
Yeah.
or do you want?
Yeah.
The
Yes,
notification
the two,
part
yeah.
that you mentioned,
So why don't we?
we
do it
don't
both?
need a council, we don't need a council on that. That, we will do that. That will happen.
Okay,
So the thing that we would need is the requirement to notify. So if I understood you correctly, you were making a motion to amend,
motion to notify the residents within 800 feet of the construction site prior to commencement of construction.
1,000 feet.
Public Parks and Public Works will be involved in that one?
1,000 feet.
1,000 feet.
1,000 feet, okay. All right. Move to require notification of residents within 1,000 feet of
The intersection.
construction site prior to commencement.
motion by Councilmember Holloway, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Washington. Any discussion of the motion to amend? Councilmember Johnson.
There is one other property that I'm aware of that could be rather close, and that is the King County Search and Rescue Headquarters. Is there any thought that they should be alerted?
Well,
They're not in residence.
yeah, but they're, sorry.
Not sure who you were asking that of. Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, I guess my thought would be there's no one there on a permanent basis.
But they work. I'm sorry, man.
Councilmember Johnson.
But they do work and they could be doing stuff. So the noise and stuff could be disruptive to their
You-
business.
Just the council members did see the noise level we're talking about. It's about the level of a dishwasher running.
Hmm.
Usually the King County Search and Rescue guys are.
Yeah.
Hiram.
It's a lot more louder.
It's at night.
And that's what I'm saying, they're permanent.
All right, any further discussion of the motion to amend? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to amend, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to amend passes. Any further discussion of the amended motion? Seeing none, Councilmember Johnson.
I did want to make sure that I understood what exactly this is and what exactly this isn't. Residents have raised concerns about that particular intersection and the type of intersection that it will be, and whether that's the best type or not. That is not the decision before us tonight, nor am I aware of that decision coming to us as a council. So just wanted to be clear that this is about the construction timing itself, not about the type of intersection, nor, to my understanding, do we weigh in on the type of intersection anyway.
Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor of the amended motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The amended motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. Due to the late hour, I will keep it brief. This is a busy 2 weeks for events in Snoqualmie. We had this year's Boeing Classic at the club at Snoqualmie Ridge. That was held the week of August 10th. For those who don't know, that is tens of thousands of visitors to the Boeing Classic. The annual Rotary Golf event was also on Friday, the August 21st, at the other golf course in Snoqualmie. And then Snoqualmie Days were Friday and Saturday, August 21st and 22nd. We had what I consider to be ideal weather, not too hot and not raining. So great weather. We had fantastic community attendance and a very successful event. You heard earlier this evening from Dory Ross, who led that whole Railroad Days effort, Snoqualmie Days effort. The significant work to zone Snoqualmie Ridge and to revise the comprehensive plan for the urban growth area is continuing to take significant staff time. The Planning Commission and CD Committee work plan is very packed for the rest of the year. Significant work is now underway to prepare the biennial budget proposal, and a proposed timeline will be presented at the next F&A committee meeting. And the Teamsters contract negotiation is ongoing. As I mentioned to you before, we're also now preparing for the police contract, which will also be being negotiated this autumn. And that is my brief, quick update on mayor's report. Moving on to commissioner committee liaison reports. Are there any commissioner committee liaison reports? Seeing none. The next item is department reports. Those are all in your advanced materials. We continue to try and have those be concise. Please let us know if we get, shall we say, overly concise. If there are things you'd like to see in there, please let us know. We're trying to make this as useful as we can to you. And we're planning to now put these every month on the website for each of the departments so that the public doesn't have to come to the minutes or the agenda packets for our council meetings. They can just go to the department on the website and see those. So please give us any input. And of course, if you do have any questions about any of the items there, any follow-up, please just let me and the city administrator know, and we will absolutely follow up on those. Councilmember Johnson.
In terms of the river trail, can you just give me an update as to what its status is? I'm kind of confused.
It is got a few punch list items left, but it is essentially done. We are now planning a ribbon cutting for it in September, and it is now open for use. Call it a sort of what we refer to as soft opening. But in fact, I don't know, for those of you who don't drive by it daily, it is getting daily use. It is really exciting to see the community pick up on that. It seems to be very well received. A lot of talk about it. I've heard nothing but good things from our residents and from visitors.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. With that, I think we've reached the end of our agenda for tonight. And that being the case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Watton, seconded by Councilmember Washington. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we are adjourned at 9:30. Thanks very much, everyone.